Welcome everybody to MBL Tonight. I'm your host as always, Sonny Weaver. We got a great show planned for you tonight, but before we get into it, I want to go ahead and thank our newest sponsor, web3ks.com. They did our new intro for our show and we'll be working with the MBL network from here on forward. If you guys need affordable graphics done for your business or for your CFM, make sure to contact web3ks.com for all your affordable creative needs. Like I said, great show tonight. We're going to go ahead and bring on our first guest for tonight. Our friend DK is coming on the show here. And so, DK, we've had a great season so far in MBL. And what we're wondering is, who do you have as your good, your bad, and your ugly teams for this season of MBL?
With a lot of storylines in the MBL this season, I'm going to give you a little bit of my good, my bad, and my ugly. First, I want to start off with the good. The Rams are the good. Last season, with a lot of QB injuries and the Draco defense that was non-existent, they were in the middle of the pack in the NFC West at 7-9. This year, the Draco defense is back and better than ever. They are 13-3 this year, and they're second in the NFC as far as record is concerned. So they get a first-round bye. This year, the Draco defense is first in points, first in total yardage, and first in rushing, and fourth in passing. The defense has just been all over the field and causing tons of problems in the NFC this year. And that's why Draco, the Rams owner, is the owner of the year.
Now that's interesting. Anybody who follows MBL will know that Draco defense has become somewhat of a legend around these parts. It disappeared for a couple seasons. We're happy to see it back. So DK, go ahead and tell us about who's your bad for this MBL season.
For my bad, it's going to be the Chiefs. Ever since Prince has come back and been in the Chiefs organization, he has made it to the playoffs every year, but this year. I do not know what happened to Prince and his Chiefs this year. They have been struggling. They went 7-9 this year, and 6 of their 9 losses were at least 7 or less points. I think Prince is going to get back to his winning ways next season, but this season has to be a total disappointment for Prince this year.
Like you said, Prince has struggled this year. He's had a great career so far in NBL. I'm sure he's going to rebound. Good draft, good free agency, and we'll see Prince back in the playoffs next year. So let's go ahead and go to your ugly for this year.
And for my ugly, it's going to be the Browns. The Browns. They have been a crap show for the last couple seasons. This year especially. I don't know what's going on in Cleveland, but hopefully they can get a turnaround out there. The Cleveland Browns used 2 of their first-round picks, which was pick 6 and pick 12, to get a quarterback to replace Johnny Manziel. Well, before the season even started, both of the quarterbacks were suspended for the year. I mean, anything that can go wrong in Cleveland is going to go wrong for them. I mean, now that the Cavs have won a championship, it's time for everybody else in Cleveland to step up to the plate and be competitive. Well, after that, towards the end of the year, their star running back, Torian Parker, was suspended for 2 weeks for PEDs. I mean, where can they go right with the Browns? But you know what? With new ownership taking place, FC Flyer, he's looking to take the Browns to the next level and actually bring them back to their winning ways back a long time ago. So we'll see what FC Flyer can do, and hopefully he can change the Cleveland Browns around and make them a perennial powerhouse.
You are right. The Browns under the former ownership were having a lot of struggles, so it's nice to see this new ownership come in. I know they had a good performance there in Week 17. It'll be interesting to see how they go ahead and transition into the new year. DK, thanks for coming on. We'll see you next time. As NBL wraps up the season and we head into the playoffs, there's a lot of good storylines, and so we're going to go ahead and bring in NBL Network insider LippRipper to come on and tell us about what the storylines we should be following here in the playoff season. So Lip, there's, like I said, a lot of good storylines coming along. Who are your 2 favorite storylines for this playoff series?
This year, the NBL playoffs are going to be the most exciting playoffs we've ever seen. And I'm going to pick 2 teams right now that have 2 components to them that is going to be extremely crucial to their success in the playoffs. Right now, it's going to be the San Diego Chargers from the AFC West. They don't have their starting quarterback. Spriggs is hurt. He's out for the remainder of the season. He won't be back for playoffs. So this is really on the ownership, the coaching staff, and the management of what they do at quarterback and how they protect their quarterback so that he can help them succeed in playoffs. The other component comes from the St. Louis Rams, and this is the entire defense. We know that the Draco defense is something that everybody knows about. If you're in NBL, and you hear Draco defense, you know exactly what's going on. And at 13-3 with a number 2 seed, first round bye, this team is going to be watching these wild card games, and this defense is going to come hitting hard. As long as this defense keeps playing as top-notch as it has been all season, the Rams are going to have a really good chance at making a Super Bowl. But it's all going to be dependent on their defense, because their offense does need their help for them to succeed. Look for the Rams to use their defense as their biggest and most obvious key to winning a Super Bowl.
Once again, we hear about that Draco defense, and that will be one thing to watch. So those two storylines obviously will be played out throughout the playoffs, but there's some good storylines here in the first round, especially something interesting about the wild card. So go ahead and tell us about what's so interesting about this wild card matchup.
Yes, Sonny, this MBL playoff edition is going to be an extremely interesting one. Not only do we have a couple teams who are in playoff positions that they either haven't been in the playoffs before, or they've done well enough to get themselves a bye, which they have never done before. But the most interesting thing about these playoffs is that, at least for the wild card round, these games have already happened as they sit right now. If we start in the AFC, Cincinnati should be taking on Houston. This was a game that happened in Week 11 already, where Cincinnati took the win 27-7. If we move to the other wild card game, we look at Denver against Buffalo. This game also happened in Week 11, where the Buffalo Bills won 19-13. This is going to make the playoffs a different kind of playoff matchup, because these teams already played each other. They've seen what the other teams can give, and it's going to be very interesting what they use, what they don't use, and how they match up against each other coming up in these playoffs. And as we've just gone over, the AFC has a wild start in the wild card round, but the NFC is very similar. If we look at our first wild card game between the New York Giants and the Seattle Seahawks, they have already played as well this season. And yes, once again, it was in Week 11. The Giants took that game 30-14, which the Giants have been playing outstanding football. They have 2 receivers over 1,000 yards. Odell Beckham and Brian Mason have been killing it. So it's going to be tough. But that Seattle Seahawks defense is very smart. They're not going to be fooled by the same thing over and over. So this is going to be a great matchup. Now, if we go to the matchup that everybody is extremely excited about, they love watching these two teams play, and we get to watch them for a third time. And that's right, it's the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, these teams are in the same division, so they've already played twice. And you guessed it, one game was in Week 11. So Week 11, the Carolina Panthers took out the victory 21-13. Now, just 4 weeks later in Week 15, the Carolina Panthers lost 7-19. This is going to make it an extremely interesting matchup, because these teams have played each other roughly 14 times as we've gone through this entire thing. So this playoff matchup is going to be huge.
Yeah, you're right. That has been a really interesting stat, that all of these matchups have already occurred. It'll be interesting to see if any of those can flip in the playoffs. It's tough to beat a good team multiple times. So when you're talking about that Falcons and Panthers matchup, that's especially interesting. The Panthers have struggled to get past the Falcons. So could this be the time they finally make it through? We'll have to wait and find out. Lip, thanks for coming on. You've been a big help. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Once again, I want to thank Lip and DK for coming on and helping us out. Once again, I'd like to make sure you guys check out our newest sponsor, web3ks.com. They provide some great graphics here for MBL Tonight, and they can do the same for you guys. That's all the time. Once again, I'm Sonny Weaver, and this has been MBL Tonight.